Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber Security Plus podcast. This series helps you prepare for the CompTIA Security Plus exam with focused explanations and practical context. For a companion study guide, check out the Achieve CompTIA Security Plus 701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. It is the most concise and complete Security Plus guide on the market, built for busy professionals who want to pass the exam fast and on their first try. You can find this book and others at cyberauthor.me. Finding a vulnerability is only the first step. The real challenge lies in what happens next, confirming that the issue is real, deciding how urgent it is, and figuring out what to do about it. That is where vulnerability analysis and prioritization come into play. In many environments, scans return hundreds or even thousands of findings. Not all of them are accurate, and not all of them are equally dangerous. Knowing how to validate findings and prioritize your response is what transforms a vulnerability report into an effective risk management strategy. In this episode, we focus on confirmation, validation, and how to make smart decisions about which vulnerabilities to fix first. We begin with confirmation and validation. After running a vulnerability scan or receiving a threat report, the first thing a security team must do is confirm whether the reported issues are accurate. Not every alert is legitimate. Some are false positives, situations where the scanner flags a vulnerability, but the issue does not actually exist or cannot be exploited in the environment. False positives can occur for many reasons. A scanner might detect a software version that has known vulnerabilities, but the actual exploit path may be disabled by configuration, or the system might be running a custom build that includes a patch the scanner does not recognize. False positives create noise, waste time, and can lead to unnecessary disruptions if taken at face value. That is why confirmation is so important. A confirmed vulnerability is one that has been validated by manual inspection, additional testing, or correlation with other data sources. For example, a security analyst might log into the system to verify that the vulnerable service is actually enabled and accessible, or they might run a secondary scan with a different tool to compare results. Confirmation adds context and confidence, allowing teams to focus on what truly matters. On the flip side, we also have to contend with false negatives. These are vulnerabilities that exist in the system but were not detected by the scanner or monitoring tools. False negatives are dangerous because they create a false sense of security. You believe the system is clean, but a critical weakness may be quietly waiting to be exploited. False negatives can result from misconfigured scanning tools, incomplete asset inventories, or limitations in the scanner's detection capabilities. For example, if a server is excluded from the scan, its vulnerabilities will go unreported. Or, if a scanner cannot access certain parts of a system due to permission issues, it may miss key configuration problems. Managing false negatives means ensuring your scanning tools are properly configured, your asset inventory is complete, and you occasionally perform deeper or more targeted analysis to uncover what might be hiding. To deal with both false positives and false negatives, organizations often adopt a layered approach. This includes using multiple tools, conducting manual reviews, integrating threat intelligence, and running regular scans from different perspectives. It also requires collaboration between security teams, system owners, and application developers to fully understand how systems are built, configured, and used. Let's look at a practical example. A scan flags a vulnerability in a popular web server software on a staging server. The vulnerability is marked as critical, but further inspection reveals that the affected module is not installed and the server is firewalled from external access. In this case, the scanner was technically correct about the version, but incorrect about the risk. Meanwhile, a dynamic analysis of the same application uncovers a serious input validation flaw that was missed by the scanner. These contrasting results illustrate the importance of validation and multiple analysis methods. Now let's turn to prioritizing vulnerabilities. Once a vulnerability is confirmed, the next step is deciding how quickly it needs to be addressed. In environments with limited resources, not everything can be fixed at once. Prioritization helps security teams allocate their time and effort to the vulnerabilities that matter most. There are several criteria used to prioritize vulnerabilities effectively. The first is severity. This usually comes from a scoring system like the Common Vulnerability Scoring System. Vulnerabilities are ranked based on factors such as the impact to confidentiality, integrity, and availability, as well as how complex the attack is. A vulnerability that allows remote code execution with no authentication is likely to have a much higher score than one that requires physical access or insider knowledge. The next criterion is exploitability. This measures how easy it is for an attacker to take advantage of the vulnerability. Some vulnerabilities have publicly available exploit code or are being actively used in the wild. Others may be theoretical or require rare conditions. Even if two vulnerabilities have the same severity score, the one with active exploits in circulation should be addressed first. That is why it is important to combine severity scores with real-world intelligence from threat feeds, vendor advisories, and security bulletins. Another factor is asset criticality. Not all systems are created equal. A vulnerability on a publicly accessible web server that handles customer transactions is more urgent than the same vulnerability on a testing server behind multiple firewalls. Security teams should consider the role of the affected system, the sensitivity of the data it handles, and its exposure to potential attackers. This business context is essential to making smart prioritization decisions. Dependencies also matter. Sometimes fixing a vulnerability on one system affects other systems or requires coordination across teams. Prioritization includes understanding these interdependencies and planning remediation steps that avoid disruptions or unintended consequences. Let's walk through a scenario. A vulnerability scan identifies 10 medium-severity vulnerabilities on workstations and 1 high-severity vulnerability on a database server. The team initially prepares to focus on the high-severity issue, but after reviewing the data, they find that the high-severity vulnerability is not currently exploitable in their environment, while the medium-severity workstation vulnerabilities are linked to active malware campaigns. In this case, the team decides to prioritize the medium-severity issues first because they present a greater immediate risk. This illustrates how context can shift your response strategy. In another example, a university's IT team identifies a severe vulnerability in its online registration system during a mid-semester scan. Because the system handles sensitive student data and is publicly accessible, the vulnerability is addressed within hours. A similar vulnerability on a development server is logged and scheduled for the following week. This approach ensures that resources are focused where the potential damage is greatest. To help organize prioritization, many organizations use a risk matrix. This tool maps vulnerabilities based on their likelihood of exploitation and potential impact. High likelihood, high impact issues go to the top of the list. Low likelihood, low impact issues fall to the bottom. This matrix provides a visual way to balance competing risks and justify decisions to stakeholders, auditors, or leadership. To summarize, vulnerability analysis begins with confirming whether findings are accurate and understanding what may have been missed. False positives and false negatives can distort your security picture, so validation and thorough coverage are essential. Once confirmed, vulnerabilities must be prioritized based on severity, exploitability, asset criticality, and business context. These decisions turn raw scan data into focused, effective action plans that reduce real-world risk. For the Security Plus exam, be prepared to answer questions about distinguishing false positives from false negatives, interpreting vulnerability reports, and making prioritization decisions. Expect scenarios that ask you to choose the best remediation plan based on risk factors, review terms like Common Vulnerability Scoring System, risk matrix, asset criticality, and threat intelligence. They often appear on the exam and in performance-based tasks. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cybersecurity Plus podcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com. And before you take the test, make sure to check out the practice questions in the book Achieve CompTIA Security Plus SY0-701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. They cover every domain and are a powerful way to lock in your knowledge.